This is Nightmare Hydra, apparently. Oh, wait. I thought I was doing Brutal. My run was actually on Nightmare. Oh, my goodness. Okay, I thought I was running this on Brutal. I thought that's pretty good damage. No, that's actually Nightmare. Okay, well, I usually run this team on Brutal, but it's actually doing some really good work on Nightmare. That's even better than what I originally thought. All right, guys. Well, I guess you're in for a treat now. So this is Nightmare Hydra. My Obro's putting up. Let's actually pay attention to what she's doing with her own skill, and then what Mad Hatter does when she joins in. So her A1 skill on this head, let's see. We're putting up about 400,000 damage. Let's see if we're able to get him to use his A2 skill to see how much damage we're going to put up with him having that boost. Okay, unfortunately, we didn't get the A2 off cooldown yet. Hopefully he comes back before this head pop. Okay, we should be good here. Excellent. So we have Obro joining in, 600,000 there. The head pops and falls down, unfortunately. Let's see if we're able to knock another head down. Good, there's a head over there. Let's try to get a decreased defense and weaken applied. I'm going to just do the manual A1 with a Mad Hatter. We boost turn meter. I want the weaken to be applied. It won't be applied. Actually, it may be applied. So let's see what Obro's doing on this head far left. So we hit that. Obro hits for 457,000 damage. I'd say it's pretty solid damage. 719,000 damage. But now let's see what she's doing. So she hit 719,000 just then. And now she's going to hit for, because she's joining in. I want to see a million? 885. Okay, so more damage for sure. I didn't pay attention to what she did on all these other heads. But having the ability from the Mad Hatter to place that decrease, that weaken, plus the Hex AoE, and have her joining in the attack, plus increasing her buff durations is really incredible. And to be honest, this damage that I did, being on Nightmare, is all that more impressive. Now it is 43 minutes long. I'm working on a Hydra takeover as well while we're running this. That one's running on auto in the background. And I was also doing my clan siege battles for the regular servers. So I had a lot of stuff going on. So I had to pause this one for a little while I was tweaking those other things a little bit. But having 326 million damage dealt on Nightmare Hydra is super, super impressive, I'd say. Now, of course, we have Duchess on the team. We have Wukong. Actually, honestly, other than Duchess, is this team super crazy? I don't think so. And I was going to do this video and saying that Brutal is actually good to have this damage on. I didn't even realize I had it on Nightmare. I am definitely building this team for the live servers on Brutal when it comes out. I already used Trunda on Nightmare, so that's fine. But that much damage on Nightmare with my Obro team is very impressive because this team usually just, it does really good on Brutal, but it struggles on Nightmare typically because when I get all the roles accounted for, I usually can't fit in a res champion very easily. But in this version, I was able to do that, which honestly, big fan of. But the damage, you can tell that it's all coming from Obro, basically. He's getting some shared damage from the hexes. So Wukong's holding his own, definitely is. But the hexes are coming from the Mad Hatter, and the Necmo's just in a relentless set. He could be in something else for sure. But if we end this battle, you can see how much damage was dealt. Obviously, not very much. But Mad Hatter is boosting Obro quite a bit. Also has no blessings, but having her joining in on his attacks, even just every so often, is great. But the biggest thing is that he's bringing in that Hex, the weaken, but also, before I get into the builds of these champions, I want to talk about today's sponsor, which if you have any questions about it, don't hesitate to shoot me a message on Discord and we can talk about it some more. But I always say that Raid's not really a mobile game because of how demanding it is. You basically have to play it on a PC. But Red Magic, the sponsor of today's video, sent me their Red Magic 10 Pro in the lightning color, which is this all white. Looks super clean. No camera bump out whatsoever, lays perfectly flat, very nice phone. But I gotta say, this is a gaming beast, and I actually have been playing Raid on it. I put about 24 hours into this phone, and it's been a pleasure. So the Red Magic 10 Pro is rocking a Snapdragon 8 Elite processor clocked just over 4 gigahertz, 4.32 gigahertz actually. So with that high performance also is gonna come high heat. But the Red Magic 10 Pro solved this by being the first smartphone ever to use liquid metal cooling technology. Plus, it has a pretty sweet RGB fan on the back. But I mean, what kind of gaming phone would this be without an RGB fan? Now, with a 95.3% screen to body ratio and a hidden front camera, the Red Magic 10 Pro has the most immersive phone display that I've ever used, making any videos, movies, gaming feel so much more immersive. When gaming, I almost feel bad for everybody else because of the settings that I can change that give me both an advantage, but also make playing the game so much more comfortable. Adjusting the triggers to fire from the left or fire from the right if you're playing Mech Arena. My favorite one is just adjusting the refresh rate. I mean, going from 60 FPS or the 60 hertz refresh rate to 144 hertz refresh rates makes Raid on mobile feel so much better, and you're going to see faster runtimes in your dungeons if you bump it up from 60 hertz to 144. It's been a pleasure using this phone, and if you guys want to check it out, you can click the link down below, go visit their website, learn more, do some research. It's an awesome gaming phone. It's a very, very nice gaming phone. I've been enjoying it, so hopefully you guys do too if you decide to purchase it. And I gotta say, I'm typically more of a fan of black, but this white looks super clean. I really like that. Thank you again to Red Magic for sending me this device, and now let's get back to the content. Let's talk about the builds of these champions. Honestly, Mad Hatter being the most important. He's in a Provoke plus Slayer set. I'll go into more details about that in just a moment, but let's talk about his skill kit. Just a quick refresher. So his A2 is an AoE attack that places Hex plus Weaken, and then the ally with the highest crit damage is going to join the attack. Obro in the previous run, the ally joining the attack uses their A1 skill, their default skill. The damage dealt by the ally joining the attack will increase by 10% for each debuff on the target. So if you have 10 debuffs, that's an extra 100% damage. That's pretty massive, especially on a champion like Obro, who is already doing some good damage. Now, I don't know if for her, it's going to boost to everybody, but I would imagine that it would boost the damage per head that she hits, but just take the damage boost from that first one. Not certain. Haven't done enough testing to actually tell which way it actually works. But either way, she's getting damage boosted, which is always amazing, and joining in on an attack. And then his A3 skill is going to be increasing the duration of all buffs on all allies by 1 turn. This is always super helpful. Gives him some use in clan boss as well. And also decreases the duration of all debuffs on all allies by 1 turn. This helps him somewhat deal with the Head of Torment, placing those true fears. So right now you have a champion in a Provoke set who is dealing with the Head of Decay, somewhat dealing with the Head of Torment, dealing with the Head of Mischief, allowing you to target him because of that Hex being placed, and also boosting your team's damage by 25% from the Weaken, but making your team deal more damage because he's bringing in your highest damage dealing champion and boosting the damage dealt that moment by 10% per debuff. So we have damage boosting, we have Hydra head control, and we have buff and debuff manipulation on your allies, plus a turn meter boost. We have a lot of stuff going on. And then you look at his A1 skill, which attacks one enemy 2 times, and the attacks each are going to have a chance of stealing 1 random buff, which could be great to steal reflect damage, but they're also going to have a chance of spreading a random debuff per hit. So potentially 2 random buffs could be stolen, and then 2 random debuffs could be spread to targets under Hex. Very cool A1 skill. And then his passive is every 10 turns taken by allies, heals them by 20% of their max HP, and then every 6 turns taken by enemies, places a True Fear debuff on all enemies for 1 turn. Very good for wave control content. So his actual build, the reason why I've gone with the Provoke is because now he is covering the Provoke spot, the Hex spot, the Weaken spot. Those are 3 debuffs that are extremely valuable that oftentimes you need 2, maybe even 3 champions to fill. But in this case, we just use him, and he's covering all of them. Now, of course, bringing in an extra Provoke champion would be a great idea, but with the Mad Hatter, you don't need it. Though you may have to target the Head of Decay manually to use the A1 sometimes. It's not going to be the most consistent Provoke, but it is going to be an extra Provoke for you to actually get off. If not Provoke, though, I'd probably run something like Relentless or Merciless for more activations of this A2 skill, as well as the A3. Something worth considering. Now, as far as the rest of his stats go, he's got good speed, survivability where you can get it, and then good accuracy. For relics, we're not going to talk about that. For blessings, honestly, if I get a 5-star one, it's going to be Cruelty, possibly Brimstone if I use them in other areas. And then for his masters, we have War Master. So if there's any leeches, we can pick up some bigger heals, but paired with the Life Drinker, it's pretty nice as well to keep him healed up just a little bit. Now, when it comes to the other champions in this team, honestly, they're nothing super special. Let's actually not even showcase them. It's just going to make this video too long. There's really no reason to even go over them. I've done plenty of videos on the Obro stuff. I may do a more in-depth video on this team if you guys are interested in it. But Duchess is in 9-piece protection. Mikage is in Relentless plus Merciless. Sun Wukong is in just lethal. Obro's in Slayer, and Nekmo's in Relentless gear. So the stats are pretty high on all these champions. That was Nightmare Hydra. I was thinking it was Brutal initially, but it was actually Nightmare. Obro's in 9-piece Slayer, if I didn't already say that. So Wukong, Mad Hatter, Lady Mikage. These are these champion builds. I'm going to tweak it and adjust it a little bit more for the live servers, but I just wanted to make this video to serve as like a, hey, this champion's really good, and you may regret skipping him if you decide to just not worry about the fusion. I've seen a lot of negativity around him as well, but I think that he brings something so interesting, and that is the Hex plus Weaken on one skill. I don't think any other champion in the game does that. I've looked, I can't find anybody. There's a few other champions who bring a Hex plus a Weaken, but it's not on the same skill. It's a Cleopteric, so you're not going to use her in Hydra anyways. We have a AoE Hex and then a single target Weaken. But the cool thing about this is, let's just say you want to build a free-to-play Hydra team. I'll do this in another video more in depth, but just throw in an Ugo, and now look. You already have a Hex, a decreased defense, a block buffs, and a Weaken, plus a provoke. You have a good chunk of Hydra stuff already taken care of there. Well, now let's say you want a decreased speed also. You throw in a Visix. She brings an extra provoke, definitely not a bad thing, and she brings an AoE decreased speed. You have 3 pretty accessible champions, Ugo being the only champion you have to pull from a shard, Visix being a free login champion, 3 champions who are going to cover a lot of the Hydra things you need to cover. But now, what are we looking for? Well, I would like to have an increased speed. So, you want to have an increased speed in the team. Increased speed, you can pick it up from even Lady Noelle. Lady Noelle brings an increased speed, also a res and a big heal. So now you have your res, your big heal, your increased speed, and now you're just looking for some pure damage spots. You're covered on basically everything else. Now, you don't have an increased attack. You don't have the buff damage increases, but if you had a Thor, there you go. He brings his own increased attack. You have a Wallmaster Athorion, brings his own increased attack. You have other champion, Marius, which may be a little bit overkill for this team, but you have a He-Man, for example, brings his own increased attack as well from his A2 skill. So we have champions who bring their own buffs. Of course, you could drop the Lady Noelle and throw in like a Mithrala for the shield, or if you wanted to go a different increased speed champion, you could go in Eostrid, who brings in a increased speed plus a decreased speed plus a increased attack. You could throw in a 2 attack champions, maybe even drop Physics for somebody else since you now have a decreased speed from Eostrid, and maybe you want to throw in a res champion. Maybe Lady Noelle goes in that spot, possibly, or you throw in, there's a lot of options, guys. Basically, there's tons of different options. You could throw in a Mighty Uko, brings in a res, plus a block buffs, and an AoE decreased attack on that A1 skill, plus a previous fusion, and fill these next 2 spots in just with damage dealers. But having this, like, honestly, these 2 champions alone is a very good start to a good Hydra team. And you don't have to worry about these future champions being put into a Hex set or a Provoke set because you have these 2 champions covering those 2 debuffs. Sorry, I keep looking to the side, working on a Hydra takeover over there. But these 2 champions alone are amazing. I'm going to do a video with them 2 being used together in a team that makes sense, more free-to-play accessible, so stay tuned for that. But I do honestly believe the Mad Hatter is definitely worth going for. I mean, that damage from the Obro team is so good on Nightmare Hydra, it'll be even better on Brutal. Matter of fact, I'm actually kind of curious. What would I be doing on Brutal? Of course, the Duchess is going to be boosting the damage from her protection set, so it's going to be a little bit better than normal just from that. But having the Mad Hatter making my Obro join the attacks and boosting her damage based on the amount of debuffs they have is so cool. I kind of want to see what the difference of the damage is. So we're going to target this head on the far right. Obro hits it for 111,000 and 153,000 that time. May have been a Helm Smasher proc. There's no reason she would hit more damage than the A2. So it's just some RNG there because it's literally impossible for her to be hitting for more damage unless it's just the weaken being applied. I was hoping that he would apply the weaken first, but maybe not. It doesn't matter past the first turn anyways. But we're going to knock these heads down really fast, honestly. I mean, Obro team already works out fantastic. I'm a huge fan of it, of course. But this is just going to be a little bit better than it was before. Because now we have the Mad Hatter bringing her into more attacks. So we have Mikage bringing her in, Mad Hatter bringing her in, relatively low cooldown, and then, of course, her doing her own A1 skills. We got a lot of bringing her in, though, which is very nice. I may actually drop Nekmo so I can save my turns. Make this a slightly slower team. But let's see what we do now on these other heads. 1.2 million damage. What in the world? I've actually never seen her hit that hard. That's pretty impressive. Maybe she does. 404. Dang. That's actually huge. 1.1 million damage on that A1 ability. Oh my gosh. Someone calling it for 1.3 million. That's crazy as well. But 1.1 is wild. I've never seen Obro break 1 million damage. Now, of course, it is a mixture between Duchess and him, but those two combined is putting up some pretty sweet numbers, honestly. Getting him into a Merciless set over a Slayer set may even be the play to make. Honestly, that's probably it. Merciless and Slayer instead. 734,000 over there. Very nice stuff. So, guys, I am going for the Mad Hatter Fusion. I think most players should as well. I mean, as long as it's not going to cost you a bunch of resources. Hopefully it doesn't. We're going to see the Fusion plan soon. But I think he's solid enough to justify going for. But guys, thank you all very much for watching. Don't forget to check out the sponsor of today's video, Red Magic and their gaming phone. It's awesome. The Red Magic 10 Pro. I was enjoying it. I've been enjoying it. So guys, thank you again, and I'll catch you all in the next one.